Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell. I am back in green. While I was out at one of the track stations, I read a poem by a 16-year-old girl named Brittany, which I'm sure it's been there for years, and so she's legal tender now. But her poem was chosen for a little mural thing there at the bus stop, and it's, I guess, titled Bus Lovin' Hip Chick. So, I mean, no insecurity issues there whatsoever. Trying to repeat over and over again to reinforce similar to Mormons. Every time they hear something in the news about the church, they curl up in a ball and keep repeating over and over again, the church is true, the church is true, the church is true. And by saying so, it makes it so. But I thought it was kind of cute, because I wish I was that 16-year-old boy. In one of the stanzas, she has, "Check me out, cute boy in the yellow bus." She was crushing on one of the boys there, stalking him. So did you marry him? Did you wait for him to return from his mission? Inquiring minds want to know. Or are you like Oakes and being condemned for not being married and pursuing an education and a career and bypassing babies? Since 16 years old was who he was talking to. So, a little fun thing there for you. And I've offended all of you and you've all left. Nobody's going to watch the video now. I had a comment while I was out and about. She goes by Chief Cherokee, but when you click on it, she's Patricia K. And she chose to expose herself, so I'm exposing her. She again demonstrates the stupidity of Mormons. Except that she words it as if she's not Mormon, which is weird in and of itself, to defend Mormons when you're not Mormon, because that means you don't know Mormonism. Why are you defending something you don't know? And so I think she does know. She's just trying to keep a distance. But again, she's parroting from the scripture, which the video she's replying to is Mormon Jesus Christ is no show for second coming. Latter-day Saints quit. And so she uses Mormons rather than the approved names by Nelson. Which is another tell. And so she didn't even bother to sit and listen to the full 1 hour, 8 minute, 7-second video. Nor did she even say, well, I'm not listening that long. I'm going to quit at 20 minutes average time watching and go watch these other segments from this video. Well, at least she came to the first one. But she didn't even bother to watch to the end, because I explained that to you guys. And so if you watch the third one, I don't explain it there. It's in the second one I think I explain it. or it's in the gap between. But she now thinks that because she knows the truth, because the Bible says no man knows the day or the hour of his coming. And there's a whole lot more to that, because he says it's him, Jesus. Jesus is speaking. The Catholic Church has their special Bible for the pastors who speak at their pulpits, and their Bible version has the red for the words of Jesus. And so that, Matthew 24, would be in red, because Jesus is talking to his apostles. And Jesus, instead of saying, I am coming back for a second time, he says the Son of Man. Matthew, you're confusing Christians. No, he's not. It's a Jesus. All of it's Jesus. Its name is not even supposed to be Jesus. Matthew says it's Emmanuel, because that's what Isaiah said. So, yeah, I mean, please, guys, don't even try. I am an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, because I'm Mormon. You cannot beat me in a scripture debate. You will lose automatically, because you use Christian interpretation on Jewish documents. Oh, dear God. But no, Matthew does give us the date. It's what's called a redactor to the original author, who claims to be Matthew, talking about a character named Jesus who's supposed to be Emmanuel, but then has Jesus say that he's the Son of Man. Doesn't even refer to Son of Man being him. And so, yes, there is a date. He gives the date of his coming. It's right there in the beginning. Now, the birth of Jesus was on this wise. It's not Jesus. It's not the birth. It's his coming in the latter days. And Revelation chapter 12 and chapter 19 give us the first year and the last year of the latter days. A full 8 years. That's why Passover for the Exodus is 8 days. That's why Passion Week is 8 days. Because this is the learning of the Jews. They are not writing literal history. These are not the large plates of the Jews. Who knew what I was talking about there? Shame on you for not studying your Book of Mormon. There's the large plates and the small plates of Nephi. If I have to explain it. And so I am the only one, therefore, not even critics, because critics are behaving just like Mormons. They're referring to Joseph Smith as Christian. It's just critics think that Joseph is the bad guy, whereas Mormons say he's Christian and a prophet, therefore good guy. He's not Christian. Learning of the Jews. It's just so frustrating to be repeating this in so many videos. And yet Mormons, it just zip, zip. Dear God. And critics, seriously, I'm one of you. I've contributed to the critical information about the church. And this is how you treat me? Dear God. So here we go again with more contributions, but in the learning of the Jews. So the church has confessed to lying to us. They've been lying the whole time since Brigham Young. Since Brigham Young. Remember? Learning of the Jews, not Christian interpretation. Brigham started the Christian interpretation. Started as a missionary. Church lied to us about that. Why? Well, this is Brigham's church. Why would we lie, or why would we tell the truth that Brigham Young is a fraud and not the true successor of Joseph? Nobody would join the church. But seriously, that's why. And it's just those, oh yeah, no duh. And that's why succession is the way it is, etc., etc., etc. And then you catch on to which documents are claimed to be by Joseph, but are not. Those are what's called forged documents. And that's where Mark Hoffman got his idea. I'll forge documents and fool the church that has been forging documents. Fighting fire with fire. And then when they start to catch on, I'll use bombs to murder people to cover up my cover-up of the church's cover-up. And then I'll blow myself up and go to prison for the rest of my life. Dumbass. Lots and lots of water. Gonna have to bring my cooler to go grocery shopping now. Probably have to buy 2 coolers. But then I'll need... Anyway. No need to worry about it now. I'm home. I'm safe for the moment. Until the church finally calls people to action to attack me again. But yeah, this is what we've been faced with. September 6th, set the church on fire. And Gerald and Sandra Tanner had already left the church and were exposing the church by producing original documents from church history. And the church had been sort of, they keep attacking Gerald and Sandra Tanner, and that gets them popular. And so Sandra had told me that that's why the church had been backing off. But if you hadn't paid attention to the news, the church has closed her down. She's out of business and she's moved away. And guess what's happening to her neighborhood? Yeah, the church still attacked her. So she's just unaware of the tactics of the church. They've now destroyed her in her retirement. But they lie about the second vision. This is what I'm talking about in all my videos this year. If you hadn't noticed, if you're brand new, go back and keep watching. You'll notice a pattern of a theme in most of the videos. There's the occasional church news video that has nothing to do with the second vision. It has to do with other crimes and lies and deceptions and frauds and scams. Do you know why? When did Joseph Smith date the second vision of his 1838 version? September 22nd, 1823. It's the bicentennial year. The church isn't mentioning it. The church has lied to us about everything. Not just history, but theology, doctrine, ritual, scriptures, etc., administration. And especially the second vision. And despite bringing out the Joseph Smith Papers and completing it with the final publication, volume 15 of the documents, they're done, they're wrapping things up. Do you understand? They're wrapping things up, not just the Joseph Smith Papers. Many other things have been wrapped up already this year. They're done with those this year. This is the bicentennial year of the second vision. And they're wrapping things up this year. I will be getting more specific. But despite the Joseph Smith Papers, that corrects everything. It says on the very front of the website. That's the big thing. Okay, I'm done with you. Oh, I'm there. Okay, so you are a comment. Alright, so do I have it in this file? Yes, I does. The Joseph Smith Papers. The authoritative source. Do I need to look that up for you and read the definition of what authoritative source means? See, the scriptures that we have are not the authoritative source. The authoritative source for the writings, the teachings, and the records of Joseph Smith. They just confessed on the homepage of the Joseph Smith Papers that even the Book of Mormon, the 1981 edition, if you have other foreign language editions, those are a later edition, they're not authoritative. The 1830 Book of Mormon that the Joseph Smith Papers has is the authoritative source of the Book of Mormon. The Joseph Smith history that I'll be reading from the unauthoritative source is the authoritative source on the Joseph Smith Papers. And so I've been going over it with you as I will be covering it here in this video that looks like it's going to take an hour. So you're going to force me to... Everybody's given up already. But despite correcting our scriptures, they're not correcting them. They're not referring to the Joseph Smith Papers. They just do church news articles. Hey, we got volume 15. We're done. Pay now to get the book. You can get it for free online. Do you not see the plot that they are plotting against you? Everything for the latter days from 2017 to date has been fulfilled. This is what Patricia Kay and other Mormons and critics don't get. I'm speaking from authority. As one who has authority. Bonus points for somebody who knows where that can be found. In the learning of the Jews. And so I'm kind of curious because the church has appeared since Nelson came out and said in the coming days you're going to see greatest manifestations of the Lord's power that the world has ever known before his coming in the clouds of glory on 8 April 2024. We know the day and the hour. Eclipses last for about an hour. Well, it's longer, like lunar eclipses, and then solar even because of the time period, but yeah, hour for average. So it depends on which scripture you're referring to as to the prophecy of the author, whether it's 3 days of darkness or 3 hours of darkness. It's the same. Solar eclipses. They're telling us the day and the hour. But because it's all been fulfilled, exactly as the church plotted it to be fulfilled, and that they are directly connected with all of this, because I've tied them to the secret combination group. Are you not watching? I'm having a hard time believing that because I'm exposing them, because I've been exposing them all these years, they still haven't stopped. That they're going to stop now. That they're not going to go through with the bicentennial year and the final day. Because that's what we got left. So I can't believe that they would purposely not go through with it to prove me and Joseph Smith wrong, and the Book of Mormon wrong, and the learning of the Jews Bible wrong. Because that's their whole point. That's the whole plot, is to use the prophecies from the Bible to coordinate their attack and destroy. And so, I mean, nobody knows the day and the hour because nobody's even bothering to read and study. Patricia. And so, needle pulling thread. La, drink with jam and bread. I wrote things down, hope it make this video go quicker, but c'est la vie, mon chéri. Votre jolie en fille. Il fait chaud. Pardonne-moi. Est-ce que vous allez du Grey Poupon? Joseph Smith starts off this visionary account, which has been turned into the learning of the Christians, literal history. And so critics complain it's literal history and therefore fraudulent. And Mormons say it's literal history, it's a prophet of Jesus who's involved here. But the context is 1838. It's in between the times of his incarceration in jail. And why is he constantly getting locked up in jail? Because of the group called the Danites. His bank thing which preceded his 1838 visionary account, was because of Danites posing as Mormons, as they were Mormons, but they had a secret combination agenda. Purposely took out loans and didn't pay them back. That's why the bank failed. But Joseph Smith was able to get off of those charges, and he does this. And there are other claims of him doing things. Those are forged documents. Excuse me, because I can tie them to the Danites. Especially the name of the church, section 115. Yeah, George Robinson. Danite. And not just any Danite, a Danite leader in the Mormon War of 1838. So, Joseph says, but yeah, the Danites caused the Mormon War and got Joseph in trouble for it and locked up in Liberty Jail. And what happened? Oh, the church was cooed. Brigham Young now is the president of the 12, and he's exalted himself even further by leading the whole church in Joseph's absence. So Joseph got out, didn't he? Oops. Brigham Young's got to figure out some other way to get Joseph Smith out of the picture. Guess what happened? Give you a hint, we just had the anniversary of it. Just a few days ago. And so Joseph Smith here is saying, owing to the many reports which have been put in circulation by evil-disposed and designing persons in relation to the rise and progress of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, all of which have been designed by the authors thereof to militate against its character as a church and its progress in the world. I have been induced to write this history to disabuse the public mind and put all inquirers after truth in possession of the facts as they have transpired, both to myself and the church. It's not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Joseph Smith Papers correctly has it the Church of Latter-day Saints, which was the change that he and the leadership in 1834 voted on. So section 115, there was no vote by the leadership to change the name of the church to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is one of those no-duh moments. And so it's not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that has evil-disposed and designing persons militating against its character. It's the Church of Christ, which was changed to the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's the learning of the Jews. Emmanuel is the name of the Christ in the latter days, according to the learning of the Jews, which we're going to cover. Well, we can gloss over because we're not covering it. We're covering the Methodist preacher today. So if you've left, oops, and then you'll do a comment, well, Joseph talked to the Methodist preacher and said that, watch the whole video. I haven't even finished it, and already I know I'm going to get comments by evil-disposed and designing persons. This is what he's talking about, though. And who went around to tell people about the Church of Latter-day Saints? The missionaries, the apostles, the elder 70s. Joseph Smith's administration is not the same as ours. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, starting with Brigham Young, changed the administration to a rank office, that you elevate yourself in rank, similar to Freemasonry. And so that's why you get Mormons who, for example, Mormon women, when they want a blessing and they know their husband is an evil man, they don't want a blessing from their husband. They want to go to the bishop because the bishop has higher authority than their husband. And so this ranking of authority has fooled Mormons into thinking the higher the rank, the more righteous you are. Joseph Smith's was not designed that way. You have Aaronic priesthood, you have Melchizedek priesthood. In the Melchizedek priesthood, you've got it. You've got the Melchizedek priesthood. The various quorums are different offices to perform certain functions. And so when it's time for succession of the president of the church, it's not because you raised up the ranks to become a member of the first or the presidency of the 70 to get called into the apostleship, and then your rank of when you got put in, if you're the last man living, you become the president. No, for Joseph Smith, when he died, the whole Melchizedek priesthood, which are equal in authority, but have different roles in the church, performing different functions, are supposed to hold a big vote, an actual vote, of who the replacement of 3 presidents are to be. And section 107 verses 91 and 92 are supposed to help the Melchizedek priesthood vote for such men, because such a church would be helping to educate Mormons and priesthood in those areas, so that those who demonstrate the fruits of those gifts can be voted on to lead the church. I'm going to make you look it up. I think I'm done with the... Oh, no, we have 18 July and Joseph Smith History 21. Oh, I do have it in here. I am supposed to go over it with you. Prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. The man like Moses. The Christ. The president of the church is the Christ. But Joseph died. They didn't follow the proper true succession, and so there is no Christ. And we'll get to that because the Methodist preacher, it's prophecy. Joseph is awesome, guys. And you left? You're not listening? This is the whole bombshell I talked about in the beginning. And I'm making you wait to listen. So, yeah, in Joseph's church, no Melchizedek priesthood holder would see himself as better than another or higher in rank than another. And likewise for the family. In the family, the parents are the authority. And Joseph Smith never really indicated a presider in the home, because the ceiling is Brigham Young's. There's a ceiling in the Joseph Smith papers. I probably should have read it. I was only checking for certain things. Okay. So Joseph Smith, after setting the stage that missionaries are lying about the church, lying about Joseph Smith, calling the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith and the church Christian with Jesus. And the Danites have been causing problems and getting Joseph in trouble, as they're the ones who are going out and telling people that it's Christian. And so Joseph Smith then gives the first vision. He never says Jesus. It is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who put in Jesus, but it's not in there. They just tell us it's in there in the manuals and in the talks and in the lessons and etc. Joseph describes the two personages as Emmanuel, the sun god at noonday. Amen. The sun god at noonday of the Egyptians. You know, the learning of the Jews, Isaiah, language of the Egyptians. Amen. It's another one of those no duh. Oh yeah. And so he's now had the first vision. He's called Christianity and Jesus an abomination, which abomination is tied to abominable, which is found with the great and abominable church. And so what's the name of this church again? It's the great and abominable church. Joseph Smith just came out and said, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is ruining my church. The missionaries are lying with the wrong name, with the wrong religion, with the wrong Christ. And so the first vision sets the record straight. And now, having exposed the great and abominable church, that it's these secret Danites who are missionaries lying about the church, he now exposes Brigham Young. Who in 1838 was about to become the president of the 12. Joseph is prophesying here. Joseph rules. He owned Brigham. And then he would go on in 19 July 1840 to own Brigham again. And Mormons don't believe any of this? Dear God. See, I can understand ex-Mormons not wanting to believe, because Joseph has to be bad too. Joseph never had a prophecy that came to pass. No, he did. In the learning of the Jews. That's why nobody wants to watch. Because they don't want to know the truth. They run and hide. And if they run and hide, they can be saved in ignorance. And so it's clever of him. Because he was in the company of a Methodist preacher. But it had nothing to do with the first vision. There was no first vision. It's code. And that's why ex-Mormons aren't getting it. Joseph Smith knows he's leaving out information. If he knows, what information should there be if this were literal history? Why is it not accurate according to literal history? Ex-Mormons just don't care to learn and study. And Mormons just, it's literal history. It's true as is, despite the contradictions. We just have to have faith, and if it's important to our eternal salvation, we'll be told when we're dead. But this goes back to the theft of the 116 pages. That's when he came across a Methodist preacher. Which is before he got the Book of Mormon. But he met the Methodist preacher after he got the Book of Mormon. This is brilliantly constructed. But he's trying to claim that he's part of the religious movement from the 1820s, which people have found that 1820 there wasn't the religious revivalism of the burnt over district. And Mormons try to rewrite history and say that there was, because it's in here in the literal history of the Joseph Smith papers. Or not the Joseph Smith paper, the Joseph Smith history. And so, no, the Methodist preacher is Brigham Young. He was Methodist before joining the church. And as Methodist, he and his 12 and the 70 who are Danites are going around telling everybody it's Christian Jesus. So pay attention. Joseph is about to drop the bomb that none of you had ever caught on before. None of you. Not Mormon, not ex-Mormon, none of you. And I'm talking to Mormon crickets right now, aren't I? He says he was conversing on the subject of religion. He took occasion to give him an account of the vision, which means not literal history, which I had. I was greatly surprised at his behavior. He treated my communication not only lightly. If you've ever read the Joseph Smith papers about Brigham Young and his comments towards Joseph Smith, or any of his talks from the Journal of Discourses towards Joseph Smith, this is Brigham Young. But with great contempt, saying, oh, Joseph rules. It was all of the devil. What's the symbol of the devil? The inverted pentagram. Who uses the inverted pentagram? Brigham uses the inverted pentagram. Yeah, isn't that sweet? That there were no such things as visions or revelations. They're literal history. In these days. Now, yes, that's what he did. He put the inverted pentagram on the Nauvoo temple, dedicated it on the anniversary of the Illuminati, who used the symbol of the inverted pentagram. Brigham Young and his Danites were Illuminati through the Scottish Rites. That's the threat that the Book of Mormon is warning us about. And then he goes and puts it on the Salt Lake Temple. He dies before it's finished, but that's the design. He ordered it. And the Logan Temple finished after he died, but he ordered it. Truman Angel made sure it was done according to Brigham Young. But there's another facet to this. And I've gone over this all these years by showing you that I have the gifts, but not a single president or so-called president of Brigham's church. From Brigham all the way to Nelson. Not a single one of them have ever demonstrated prophet, seer, revelator, or translator. None of them. The revelation by Joseph Fielding Smith Sr.? No, that's not a revelation. He wrote it in his journal. His son thought it should be promoted. And thus it was. Brigham Young saying to go west? No. That was a violation of Matthew 24. If someone says Jesus is in the desert, don't go. Mormons went. And they've been in bondage ever since. And so, yeah, they don't even say translator in the sustaining votes. They leave it out, intentionally and purposely, to let all Mormons know they're frauds. Because the true president of the church is a translator, and they shouldn't have taken it out if they claim to be true. They're not true. They're exposing that they're not true. That's why they take it out. And they played you for dumb, and you fell for it. They have given you all sorts of clues, which were right in your face. Because every single Book of Mormon account of the nature and character of Lucifer and of the Antichrist, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has emulated. Every single one. Not a single one of the true prophets has the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints emulated. It's been that in our face our whole lives, and we missed it. Because we were born and raised in the church. It's called indoctrination. It's what cult groups do before they murder you. And what's this year again? What's the significance of that year? Because that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking about this. And so, yes, it's exposing what Brigham Young plotted to do to Joseph Smith by turning it into Christianity and Jesus. To do away with his visions and revelations by calling him Christian Jesus. Because now it's not a vision, it's literal history. Brigham Young diminished Joseph Smith and put the sign of Lucifer out for everybody to see. But it also means they aren't getting revelation from the true source. And they've demonstrated that they have no fruits of being the true leaders of this church. Isn't that awesome? I am not breaking this video down. You have to watch the whole thing. And if you heard that, you've watched the whole thing. Good for you. But he continues. All such visions and revelations ceased with the apostles. Which quorum was Brigham in again? The apostles. It ceased with Brigham. And that there would never be any more of them. Until Joseph, he does. He restores visions and revelations. And likewise, he's prophesying that in the latter days, Emmanuel, the Mormon, will return and will be born in the great and abominable church and receive revelations and visions, and it's restored. But we'll save only those Mormons who listen to the end of this video, and even ex-Mormons and former Mormons. You're a part of this too, guys. So you have to listen to the end too. Well, yeah. This is just awesome. Joseph is awesome. It's so frustrating that nobody wants to believe, other than a handful who do watch on a regular basis. Shout out, guys. And as I finish, I remembered 19 July 1840. In there, Joseph Smith again confirms Brigham and his apostles. He talks about the coming destruction of America in the latter days, and the need to build Zion and New Jerusalem, the mountain cities of the Lord, before the Christ comes. And I then goes on to talk about that he, as the Christ, from the Last Supper, latter days, Last Supper, Revelation 19, the wedding supper feast of the Lamb at the temple of Zion, the Last Supper. That's what that's all about. It's not Christian Jesus. You still haven't figured it out by now? Jesus is doing the sacrament, which comes from the Egyptian rituals, about Horus, the coming of Horus, the Egyptian Christ, to restore the kingdom from his murdered uncle, his uncle who murdered his father, Osiris. And of course, his uncle's name is King Set, which in Paleo Hebrew is Satan, the adversary. And so the whole sacrament is about the broken body of Osiris and the blood that was spilled. And there's whole volumes of books to further explain that, because we got to talk about women's bodies too. Women's bodies are rituals symbolism as well as latter-day symbolism. They're all tied in together. That's why a picture is worth 1 billion words. Literally. And so Jesus says that one of you will betray me. Joseph changes this. He says, all of you will betray me and will murder him. Guess what happened? They all betrayed him and murdered him in Carthage on the 27th of June, 1844. Again, Joseph drops the bomb on Brigham Young. And as I start making the video, and so we see what preceded, that started it all off in the history. Missionaries, Brigham Young's a part of it, screwing up things for Joseph, calling him Christian with Jesus. Gives the first vision, denounces and condemns Christianity as abominable, and identifies such church as the great and abominable church spoken of in the Book of Mormon, and Revelation, and Babylon, and the Doctrine and Covenants. And then exposes Brigham, prophesying that he's causing the problems with his missionaries, referring to him as the Methodist preacher, and that Brigham wants to do away with visions and revelations, and it's all of the devil. The beam and the mote even involved there. A huge old beam. Right, Patricia? And plus, Brigham has no visions or revelations. He's leading by authority because he's the rank authority. And even Oakes, who's next, has been preaching this. Our authority comes from our authority. The mantle. Yep, he doesn't care about prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. Those are just titles to fool Mormons with. He came out with a little video segment when it was on a critic video where he's saying, I fool Mormons with my mantle. I can say whatever I want to them. But yeah, that's exactly it. And so after that story, that bombshell by Joseph Smith, he then repeats it in 1840 after getting out of Liberty Jail. And a year later, he goes to the apostles immediately after jail and condemns them. The 1839 talk from the Joseph Smith Papers, also not in our Doctrine and Covenants, condemning Brigham for getting rid of Thomas B. Marsh. It wasn't about milk. No spilt milk in that story. That was all a lie. And so then, boom, the latter days. And Brigham had the audacity to have George W. Robinson forge Section 115. to have Joseph Smith drop the bomb on them again as Nelson gets up and gets owned by Joseph Smith as well. And not a single Mormon knows it because they're not watching. But yeah, that's what this second vision is all about. There's the latter days because of the great and abominable church. There's going to be destructions. Mormons are in bondage. They need help. They need to be rescued. They need to hearken to their Christ who is coming to save them in the latter days. If and only if they will hearken to the end of his videos. And believe, that's part of hearken, in case you didn't know. And, did I? Yeah, I did. I got some more projects for me to do today as well while I was out and about. But, yeah, and then the Book of Mormon. That's also part of the second vision, which is exactly the same as Lehi's second vision in 1 Nephi chapter 1, the beginning of the book, in the learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians, which means Joseph Smith's second vision is in the learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. Oh, look, he called the messenger, which is Malachi in Hebrew. He comes and says, I'm Nephi, but describes him as the sun god at noonday. And he tells them about the sun god at noonday, who's going to come in the future. And gives him the book that Lehi likewise, Emmanuel, the sun god at noonday, gives him the book talking about the destruction of Jerusalem instead of the United States of America. Just awesome. Joseph Smith's rules. So, yeah. Cool stuff, huh? Now I gotta make sure to put these in order.